Imposter syndrome, that nagging feeling that you're just not good enough to be doing what you're doing or what you would like to be doing. That sense of, who would ever want to listen to me? What authority do I have to talk about this? Imposter syndrome has stopped millions of people from doing what they really want to do. Whether it's based around fear, lack, or scarcity, it's a dream killer. But what if I told you that big, scary thing really isn't that big or scary? In fact, once you see it for truly what it really is, you would be able to achieve everything you ever wanted. Hi, I'm Amy Orbicki, the Simply Natural Coach, and I'm here to demystify the imposter syndrome with you together. Imposter syndrome is defined as a psychological occurrence in which an individual doubts their skills, talents, or accomplishments and has a persistent internalized fear of being exposed as a fraud. This most commonly occurs when we're starting something new, like a new job or starting a new family. But it can also come about just by doing the regular things in our everyday life. This can stop us from pursuing our ambitious nature, doing the things that we love and showing the people that we love that we care about them. How can we overcome this dream killer? Well, it all starts with this. Identify the fear. In one way or another, you're afraid of something. Afraid of failing in front of others, succeeding, not being good enough, looking incapable, past experiences, or your possible future. So to start, you need to identify your fear. If you can't see what it is, you can't even see how to get around it. So take some time and get real with yourself. And ask the question, what am I really afraid of? What's making me feel this way? Don't worry, you don't need to have that answer right now. You might even come up with the answer 3 weeks from now when you're actually thinking about it. So let's take some time and give you the awareness and tools you need to overcome some of the most common fears leading to imposter syndrome. The first fear is feeling like you're not good enough. In order to understand this fear, we need to understand who you really are. You might be at a job that you hate, but you're staying there because it pays the bills. Or you're in a relationship that you hate, but you're staying there because you're afraid to be single forever. Whatever it is, you're not in alignment, and so you're out of balance. So to start, you need to create a vision for yourself. This vision is not where you currently are, it is where you want to be. In order to create your ideal vision, start by asking yourselves these questions. What do you want? What will it do for you? And why is it so important? The more detailed and specific, the better. This allows you to create something that is fictional, but it is actually real to you. And the more real it is, the more attainable you'll perceive it to be. But where do you start by asking these questions if you've never thought about it before? Well, what do you like? What are your passions? What are your gifts? What past experiences have brought you joy? These questions will help you develop a solid picture for that person that you want to become and ultimately give you a better target to shoot for. Now you might be wondering, why is creating a vision important for fear of not being good enough? We don't feel like we are good enough because we are working towards being one thing when deep down we really want to be something else. And this creates a disconnect in our mind. We then interpret the disconnect as a sense of being behind, and this makes us feel like we're not where we should be, thus making us feel like we are not enough. But it's very easy to feel like you're not enough when you're not really shooting for anything that you really want. So shift your focus, make some big decisions, and start working towards the ideal vision of yourself. Eventually, that fear of not being enough will start to fade away, and you'll move towards what you really want and realize that you always were good enough and you have become the person you really want to be. So now that you've identified the first pillar of the imposter syndrome, it's time to work on the next one, asking for help. How is asking for help a form of the imposter syndrome? When you feel like an imposter, you want as few people to find out that you really don't know what you're doing. This may lead you to avoid interactions altogether. However, if you truly want to make progress on your goals, there will eventually come a time you're going to have to ask for help, but you are afraid to. Let's break this fear down. More often than not, you're afraid to ask for help because of what someone's going to think about you. You assume that you have to do everything yourself in order to not be an imposter. And asking for help is almost like a defeat or a sign that you are unable to do the thing. However, have you ever tried asking for help? Are you assuming that no one wants to help you? Or do you just not deserve to get help? Maybe you feel like what you need help with is valuable to you, but not valuable to others. I'm not sure who told you that asking for help was a bad thing, or maybe you feel less than for wanting it. Maybe a family member, or a friend, or even society. But what you know about asking for help is wrong. Asking for help is not a sign of weakness or an indication you're an imposter. It's a sign of growth. It shows you're ready to move forward. So if you're ready to ask for help, here's some guidance for your next steps. You need to find someone to trust. Asking everyone for help is not a good use of your time or energy because not everyone is going to understand what you're going through and be able to help you. On top of that, asking random people for help is not a good use of your time and energy because you haven't built a relationship with them and they don't really know you. Find someone who knows where you are, knows what you need, and has established relationship and trust with you because that person will always be in your corner and give you the help that you need to move to the next step. Okay, we've gone on over the first 2 pillars of the imposter syndrome. Now it's time to dive into other fears that may be holding you back or making you feel like an imposter. We have fear of failure, fear of success, fear of letting people down, fear of being vulnerable, and all are valid fears. However, they are not shackles. They are merely obstacles to get around. Your fear of failure comes from a mind playing tricks on you, the what if game. What if they say no? What if I don't get that promotion? What if they get mad at me? What if it doesn't work? There's something you need to know about this game. The what ifs, they're imaginary. You are creating these situations in your mind and they're not real. However, your brain can't tell the difference between what is real and what isn't. So what if these scenarios were completely imaginary and just made up in your mind? This also applies to the fear of success. Fear of success? Why would you be afraid of succeeding? That's the thing. I don't think you really are afraid of succeeding, but the idea of winning and then losing everything is just too much. It may even terrify you. Again, this is a what-if scenario. It's not real. Ultimately, when it comes to the fear of failure or fear of success, it's the worst-case scenario that you're imagining. Well, if you can imagine the worst-case scenario in your mind, can't you imagine the best-case scenario also? It takes the same amount of energy and is directed at what you really want. The only difference is that you're not afraid and that now you are excited. Fear of failure doesn't seem so bad now that you look at it in the reverse, does it? Well, but what if I let someone down? This is a good one. Your fear of failure is coming from a place of inadequacy. You don't feel like you're adequate enough to reach your goal or to help someone, and that makes you believe that your attempts won't be good enough, causing you to feel like you would let them down. This one is tough because everyone reacts in different ways. Ultimately, I can give you one piece of advice. Your best is always good enough. Being afraid that you're going to let someone down always restricts you. It doesn't allow you to perform to the power that you're capable of. And the fear of inadequacy is actually steering you towards being more inadequate. How do you direct a car? Well, you turn the steering wheel. How do you direct your thinking? Well, you don't turn a steering wheel, but you do change your perspective. So instead of going down the rabbit hole of inadequacy, start thinking that you are more than capable and perform from a place of power, personal power. Now, that's much easier said than done, and it takes more than just a few times to shift your thinking. But taking a part in this work to change your perspective and steer away from the feeling of inadequacy is the absolute best investment of your time and energy. Now, before we wrap up things, let's talk about one more fear, the fear of being vulnerable. You're afraid of being completely honest and open with others. You're afraid to be made an outcast for what you really want. You think that you're the only one there is. So if you were to embrace your you-ness, you would be all alone. It's true, you are unique, but you're only unique if you're truly and simply you. Blending in with the crowd may seem safe, but it's also restricting you from reaching your goals and becoming you. And the longer you stay huddled in the crowd, the longer you're going to feel like an imposter. We are instinctually hardwired to stay with the pack, and steering away from the pack is dangerous. That was the case thousands of years ago, and still is the case in the animal kingdom. That's not the case for humanity anymore. There are so many of us out there that are wildly unique, which means there are thousands and thousands of us to gel with our uniqueness. I know it's scary to make that first step, but there's a better life waiting for you. The imposter syndrome can be a dream killer, but if you identify and overcome your fear, transcend the feeling of being not good enough, and learn to ask the right people for help, you are well on your way to achieving your goals and becoming simply successful. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you loved watching and learning as much as I loved making it. Be sure to give it a like, and if you want to see more content like this, hit subscribe, and you'll learn more about how to bring back balance simply naturally.